Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today's video is a compilation of some of my favorite Christmas DIY ornaments in 2023. And I'm starting with this shadow box. And I get these little stretch canvases from the Dollar Tree, and I think they come two to a pack. Now I've got two choices here. I need both of these frames for the ornament. Now I could remove the canvas from one only, or I could remove it from both. And for this particular ornament, I could have easily just removed it from the one, but I went ahead and I had already stripped all of these before I really thought of doing this. So in this one, I'm going to be, both of them will be stripped. And then I can glue this cardboard to the back when I'm ready to add the back. What I did though was I took some hot glue and glued both of the frames together. And that will give me the depth that I need for a shadow box. And although this particular ornament is not going to fit inside the shadow box, you'll see that it really works out good if you pop this in half. They actually, two pieces just kind of snap together. Now Dollar Tree had these last year, but they've had them for several years, and I'm sure they'll have them again this year. And even if you have to get the ones that have the gold glitter, it's a little messy, but you can sand that off and paint over it so it will still work. So I've covered this back with some sheet music scrapbook paper, and obviously you could just use regular sheet music if you have it. And then I'm going to glue this to the front, but first I need to cover the front. So as you can see, this little piece on the bottom is going to get in the way. So what I'm doing is just taking some wire cutters, and it just clips right off, and then I can just take some sandpaper and just sand around the bottom to clean that edge up. Now obviously I didn't want this seam to show, so I glued some burlap ribbon around the edge, and it didn't cover the whole edge. So now I'm just taking some of this jute ribbon from the Dollar Tree and gluing it around. And I'm just gluing it on the very edge, and then I wrapped it around that edge, if that makes sense. And I'll show you again when I do the front. I didn't really get that one filmed good. But here I'm just taking some regular scrapbook paper, and I'm not using cardboard here because all I want to do is hide the frame. So I could have painted it, but I don't like the seams around the edge, and so I just figured the best thing to do was just cover it up. So I'm gluing that on, and then I'll take a utility knife, and you could use an X-Acto knife, probably would work better, and I'm just cutting that out. Now you want it to be close to the edge, but it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to be adding some trim around the edge to hide that. So I took that same jute twine or jute ribbon and glued it around the inside edge, and then I glued it around the outside edge, and it just kind of wraps around that corner, and it neatens it up, and it just gives it a much better look. So I did that around the inside and around the outside. So now I have once I get that covered, I'll have all my edges covered with this ribbon. And I think it finished it up really nicely, and it was very easy to cover, very easy to clean that edge up. And I just like the look of it on the sides now. And then I cut a piece of cellophane, decorative cellophane paper that my friend sent me, and my friend Margaret sent me this actually, I think. And I just glued that on the inside. That way the church windows would have the look of church windows. And because it's kind of, you can almost see through it, but you can't, so it just gives it a better look, I think. And then I just glued it to the front, added a little bit of glue to the tip top there, and then around both of the outer edges. Now I'm showing you here how these edges ended up looking. And then I just took some greenery, some little bits that I had cut from some picks, and just glued those behind it. And I made sure to put a tall one in the very back, and it just kind of mimics the look of trees behind the church. And then I just started adding some shorter, wider ones for the front. And the wide ones I felt like kind of looked like they were shrubs beside the church. And then the pieces that I added that weren't frosted already, I just took a brush with some white paint on it and just kind of dabbed it over the top of it to frost it as well. Then I had some little printouts, and I'm not sure where I got them. I think that I printed these off from the Graphics Fairy, and I'll look for that and include the link if I find it. But this is just a little clock face that I decided to add to the top of the church, and I know most churches don't have that, but I just kind of like that little touch. And now here I am dabbing that white paint over the little sprigs of greenery. And while I was at it, I decided to go ahead and dab some paint over the top of the church to resemble snow, and I just kind of put it on there pretty thick. Now, I could have added some texture to this, but I just thought for this little bit it didn't really have to have it. Then if you wanted, you could add some iridescent glue to the top of this and make it look even more like snow. And then I added some little Christmas script stamped it on a piece of cardstock and cut that out and added that to the outside of the frame. Some of these I just sold as a shadow box, and I think this might be one of them, but you could easily take some ribbon and make a hanger for the top. Now this next shadow box, I don't need the depth of the two frames, so I'm just going to use one. And I stained this with some Van Dyke brown glaze, but you could water down some brown paint or use brown wax if you wanted. But I'm taking some cardboard for this back also, and now I am Mod Podging some of this sheet music over the top of it. And I was just using a little plastic bag there because that's a good way to rub out some of those bubbles that you might get in it. Now for this one, I wanted to antique the edges, so I'm using some distress ink here and a little foam brush to distress around all the edges, and then I'll glue that to the back. Now because my friend Brenda gave me a little hymn book of Christmas songs, they were the perfect size for me to cut to go on the back of that. So that was just a nice little touch, and that little book was just really good for these little ornaments. Now I'm making the Holy Family, and I'm going to make, obviously, Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus. And I'm using these clothespins, and these are not old, but I just stained the top of them so that they would look old, and also so they would go with the frame. And now I'm wrapping them with some strips of the fabric Warm and Natural. Now you can use any thick fabric you want here. It's giving me the padding that I needed so that that I could make it look like a body. So I just did that on both of these. So I'm using 2 full clothespins, and then one I've cut in half so that it can be baby Jesus. So now I'm just kind of taking some. This is, I think, coffee stained tea towel. And as you can see, I'm just wrapping this, and I'm not really taking a lot of pains. I'm just making it resemble a dress or a robe. And as you can see, you just kind of work with this until you get it to look the way you want it to. And the good thing about this is you can hot glue behind it because the back is not going to be showing at all. and just kind of make it work. So you don't really have to know how to make clothing at all for this. You're just wrapping it and tucking it and adding hot glue. And I just did that on both of these, and I'll just kind of let you watch how I did this. And they're not going to be perfect. They don't need to be perfect. Now, as you can see here, after I wrapped Joseph's wrap around his head, I took a little piece of jute twine and tied it around and left that knot in the back, and that just kind of added another little touch that I feel like made him look a little bit more like Joseph. And then baby Jesus obviously was very easy. I just took a piece of fabric and wrapped it around him and glued it in the back. And then once I got all these pieces glued into place and I was happy with the placement, then I also glued a little bit of straw pieces to the bottom and made this look kind of like the hay in the stable. And then I added some little wording here that says God is here, and I think I just cut this out from a songbook also, and glued that to the top. And then I took a piece of jute twine and made a hanger. I also trimmed out the front of the frame with some jute ribbon from the Dollar Tree. This next one is also one of my favorites, and it is, I'm making some snow skis from wood shims. And wood shims are so easy to work with, and you just take that thin edge and you can cut that with some old scissors. Now, I wouldn't use my good scissors for this, but just cut the top in the shape of the snow ski. Then I took my little hand sander and sanded around the edges really well to give it more of a finished look. And then I stained these, and I think I just used some Van Dyke brown glaze here. Now you could use brown wax or even watered down brown paint, but with this one I'm pretty sure I used the Van Dyke brown glaze from Dixie Belle. Now to add another touch to this, I just took a stamp that I thrifted, and I don't have any idea how to find this one. It was just one that I found at our local thrift store, and I took some black ink and I am stamping that to the top of each of these. I know it has nothing to do with a snow ski, but I just thought it just added a little something extra. And then I used some hot glue and glued these together in a crisscross pattern. And then I drilled some small holes in the top of both of the skis so that I could add a wire hanger later. And then I tied some jute twine around the skis to help hold them together better, and then glued some faux greenery around over the top of that, and some berries. And I think I also added a little rusty bell to the center of this, and a hang tag. Now I also made some shadow boxes with these little shadow box frames from the Dollar Tree and these Christmas cards that I got at Walmart last year. And I just loved the scenery on them, and I thought that they would all make good shadow boxes. And where the wording was that didn't really work with my shadow boxes, I either covered it with other wording or covered it with some of the items that I added inside the shadow box. Now these I used just as regular shadow boxes that you could set as a shelf sitter, but you could easily take a piece of ribbon and tie a knot in each end and glue it to each of the outer corners and use these as an ornament because they're still small enough that they could make some oversized ornaments. So I'm just going to let you guys watch as I do each of these, and I don't really see the need to talk through them. You could just kind of watch as I add pieces until I'm happy with the end result. And what I'm using to add snow to these is just some glue, and I sprinkle some baking soda over the top of it. Now I could use glitter, but the baking soda to me just has a more natural look to it. So that's what I'm doing when I spread the glue on and sprinkle it with something that is baking soda. Now I'm using on this one some Type Bond glue and some air dry clay that I'm just kind of smushing on the bottom. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to add some little pebbles to look like a path. So I needed a base for that, and it'll also add some thickness for the snow. So again, I just put the air dry clay on the bottom that I glued on with the Type Bond glue, and then I just took some tiny stones and placed them inside it, and then sprinkled them with the baking soda and glue. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.